memory lane with you. Take me back to hours of fun with you.
It's time for the Pop Culture Classics Podcast, a celebration of the all-time favorites and the people who brought them to life on TV, film, stage, theme parks, and recordings.
We take off our hats to you, so let's bring on the show.
We're glad you've joined us. And now your host for Pop Culture Classics, Greg Ehrbar.
Thank you, Kenny Woods. Welcome to Pop Culture Classics. I'm Greg Ehrbar. You can also hear me on the other podcast, The Fantastic World of Hannah and Barbera. We're so excited. Lucie Arnaz is here, or Lucie Desiree Arnaz Luckenbill, to be complete. I am so thrilled. Welcome to our little podcast.
Thank you, Gregory. Pleasure to be here with you.
Now, I probably don't have to tell you that Lucie is, as Merv used to say, she could do it all. Singer, dancer, author, director, and Space Mountain introducer. The very first network special to promote a Walt Disney World attraction. There was a grand opening special with Julie Andrews, but yours was the first to introduce, and it was the first Space Mountain. The second one was at Disneyland with Tommy Tune, and it was when 70s specials were like all out nuts and fun to watch.
Yeah, that was fun.
Anyway, we're here because a book by DESI Arnaz has just been republished. This is very big news because this is somebody who is a true visionary and a negotiator. Like, he had an innate sense of getting things done. He was a phenomenal man. Let's start by talking about why a book, because it was a 1976, 77 originally.
1976 it was published, yep.
Because I remember he was promoting it even on a Bob Hope special called Joys about a shark that ate comedians. One of the guests. And then you were on Merv Griffin saying that there were things in the book you didn't know, like about Bacardi.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about the book then and then the book now.
Well, a very honest, easy read, page turner, like you just can't put it down. I just love the way he tells stories. And it's true, I didn't know a lot of the stuff in the book because, you don't spend a lot of time talking about all the ugly stuff that happened when you were growing up and getting kicked out of Cuba because of a revolution. It's pretty dark. And so he didn't share that with us ever. Ever. And when he sat down to write this book, he had to go back to his childhood and what happened and why he's not still living in Cuba. So that was interesting. But then also the whole early big band years when he started in the music business and all the specifics about that, fascinating. How he could, make lemons into lemonade. Fascinating. Constantly in his whole life. That was his modus of operandi. It's like, this is terrible. How are we going to fix this? And he figured it out. It's one of the things I hope I inherited from him is when things go wrong, he would always say, well, there must be a way. Let's see if there's a way to do this. And he wouldn't panic and he wouldn't take it personally. If somebody says, no, can't do that. He would say, okay, they think I can't do that. Let's figure out why they're saying that, And I love that attitude. And so I loved reading the book. I found it, impossible to put down. I think everybody who goes into show business, television, studio production should be forced to read this book because it's still very true today, what he was saying back then. So it was published in 76, which is what? It's like 50 years ago, whatever. It's a long time ago. Is it 40 years ago? How many? I can't. It's a long time ago. Anyway, it's a long time ago. It's just 40 years ago, I guess, right?
It's a little after Space Mountain, though. But...
It's a little bit. It's a long time ago. And you couldn't get it. It was out of print. And only on eBay you could grab a copy for a whole lot of money. So Running Press that put out our Lucie Desi, the Love Letters book just recently, volunteered to republish it as well. They said, we'll republish it regardless, but do you have any other, materials that he wrote maybe after that you could add to make it more special? And I didn't know. I maybe. So I went back into our files and our archives and looked through all the dusty yellow pad papers and took several months and found some really interesting stuff that he had commented on and written, and some really arbitrary trivia stuff and some really deep things that he wrote about. And I made a little afterword for the book where we talk about that. And I put all that stuff in there. And I'm thrilled. It's beautiful. The book came out great. We let it be 6 months after this incredible bio that was just released by Todd Purdom called DESI ARNAZ, The Man Who Invented Television, which is, sort of an overstatement in some ways, but in fact, the 3-camera live audience film technique that was developed by Desilu is the standard now of how you do a lot of situation comedies, and it's what allowed there to be reruns. And in fact, that sort of invented what we feel is television in many ways today. And Todd's book is amazing. If you haven't read that, it's a bio, not an autobiography, it's a bio on Desi Arnaz. And he goes right back to his roots and early television, early Hollywood. He did a real deep dive. I said, well, if you want to do this, we certainly won't stand in your way. We have no piece of it. It's all Todd's book, but we opened up everything we could to give him as much access to the truth as possible. And he wrote a fantastic book. So the two of them are really great companion pieces. It was my daughter, Kate Luckenbill, who has been asking for many years why, her grandpa's book wasn't republished. She was the one prompting us to get it done. So she wrote the foreword to the book because she's feel very proud that she accomplished that. And it was because of her, nudging us to get it done that we really did that. And I'm thrilled.
It does feel like he's speaking to you. And I listened to the audio version. Gregory Santos narrated it, a versatile actor because he was doing voices. And he narrated it in a very loving, I'm assuming authentic or at least well-researched Desi dialect. And it was the closest you could come to hearing the man speaking it.
Exactly. We hired Greg because we heard a lot of different voices and they sent me some people. And I just said, guys, this doesn't even sound anything like my father's voice. And I know that that isn't necessary in some books, but not if you're Desi Arnaz. I mean, he had a sound, and you don't want to do an impression, some stupid impression. Originally, they couldn't find, they had their usual voiceover people, and they're good.
They're great people.
They're good, normal people. They're great. But I said, it's not it. That's not it. And so we asked Jenny Lorenzo, who is she has a TikTok following of like an entire world. And she's a great friend of my daughter's. And Katie asked Jenny, do you know any actors or people that we could get? She said, I know 3 of them and you can listen. And she threw out a couple of names and they were all great. All great. But Greg was the closest in my mind to my father's sensibility and his humor. He wasn't doing an impression, but he sounded his voice was in a tenor, whatever, a timbre, I don't know what the word is, that just felt like, oh yeah, that's kind of him. And he got the jokes, he got the subtleties because he's a comedian and a lovely guy. And every time he got, he had questions about what does this mean or how do you pronounce that or what do you think he meant by this, he'd call me. The engineer would call me and say, we have a question, we have another question. And I was always available. And I go, oh yeah, this is what he meant about that. Or no, this is how you pronounce that. And we're very proud of what he did. And then there's a new Spanish translation too that's out there. So that's good.
I grew up and worked for a long time in Miami. And I remember when they had that festival that the 3 of you were at.
Yeah, the Orange Bowl. And he was king of the Carnival.
Yes, and some of the local Hispanic newscasters that were covering it pronounced the name Arnaz, and that's the way Greg says it. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a Spanish-speaking country and you're trying to speak properly, you would say Desi Arnaz, right? So there is an sound, not an es. But, it gets a little Americanized the more people say it here in this country. He would sometimes say, hello, I'm Desi Arnaz. And it's hard to say, did you say Arnaz or did you say Arnaz? My name is the same. Do I say I'm Lucie Arnaz or do I say I'm Lucie Arnaz? Sounds a little special when I go Lucie Arnaz, because I'm not speaking like that all the time. But, if you listen to newscasters today, the really brilliant newscasters who have Latin heritage, and they're talking completely, they're speaking Americanese, no accent whatsoever, until they come to a Spanish word or a Spanish town, Los Angeles, Santa Monica. They don't say it's in Santa Monica. They go, it's in Santa Monica. Because they say it right, because that's the way it's supposed to be said. California, these are Spanish words. So I kind of split the difference, and I think my father did too. I say, my name is Lucie Arnaz. You can't really tell, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, and it is Desi and not Desi, despite I think was it the first few episodes where they spelt it with a Z on I Love
Oh
Lucy.
God, I know, right? And those are the days you couldn't go back and fix it. It was like, oh, never mind. Who's going to know? Let's just move on. But
Yeah.
Desi Arnaz, and that was really because my mother pronounced it that way. There were people who pronounced it Desi. Back in the early 1930s, people were saying Desi Arnaz and his orchestra. All the announcers would say that on his radio shows. And then my mother said it's because I guess he said to her one day, it's Desi. And so she always said Desi.
Hmm.
Yeah, little Desi.
And he also, she was always known as Lucille
Yeah, and
until
so
he said, she's Lucy. To me, she's Lucy.
that's right.
And the
Yeah,
series, which a lot of people who have read, and there's millions who've read up on Lucy, the title implies him.
correct.
He's the one who loves Lucy.
It's funny when he passed away, I got inundated and, attacked really in the driveway at his house in Del Mar, California. That next morning, I was shocked. Nobody ever pays any attention to him in Del Mar. They never named a street after him. They never named a park after him. They never did anything. And he gave so much to that town that he lived in year after year after year after year. He did benefits for the town and they didn't do anything. But when he died, suddenly there were 12 camera crews in the driveway shoving microphones in my face, asking me inane questions like, how do you think your father would like to be remembered? And my instinct was, it's nice that he's being remembered at all from you guys, but I didn't say that.
Mhm.
I took a long, long pause to think of my answer. And I said, I think he would like to be remembered as the I. And then I got in my car and drove away. They all looked at each other like, huh? What? What? What does that mean? And that's what I meant. The I, because that's what he was. It was I love Lucy. And we always used to kid him, for years, and I think he put it in his book, didn't he? He said, they told me that I got top billing. That's the way they tried to tell me I got top billing.
I did spend some time with Kay Ballard in his house.
Yeah.
She adored him.
Yeah.
And she got that house at like a song
Yeah.
because he loved her so much. Just because,
Right.
and she told me if there was one way I would describe Desi, it was a man of great taste.
Hmm. Yeah, true. They had excellent taste. Absolutely true. In houses, in women, in songs, music, production, people. He knew how to hire all the right people, apparently, and then let them do their job, not micromanage them. He had great taste in clothes. He had great taste. He did. And he had great taste in cooking. He was a hell of a good cook. So he really did have good taste.
I don't know if anyone's ever asked this one. I don't want to dwell too much on I Love Lucy because so much has been said and written.
Mhm.
But my favorite husband became I Love Lucy transitioning to radio. And there were even episodes that were redone as I Love Lucy's, particularly Lucy Tells the Truth. And then there's one where they go to a restaurant and Lucy keeps wanting to move from table to table.
Mhm.
First of all, Desi, with all due respect, and I really like Richard Denning, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Alice Through the Looking Glass. Desi does so much more with those scenes, even to the point of he doesn't have silverware. I got nothing here. He helps make it funny. People take that for granted. But I've always wanted to know, did Richard Denning ever, say, gee whiz, or did he was never on the show? What was any kind of relationship? He did well. He was on Hawaii Five-0 for a million years. Did he ever say anything or?
I have no clue. No, I really have, I wouldn't know. I would assume that he didn't. I would assume that he knew exactly why my father was on the show. My mother did not make a secret out of it. She said, I don't want to do this without my husband. I want Desi to play my husband because he travels all the time and I'm making movies. I never see him and we want to have a family and I got to keep him home. And Richard, I'm sure he understood that. I don't know that he was ever like, why wasn't it me? And I never heard anything about him being on the show one way or another, whether
Yeah.
they didn't have a part for him or he didn't want to, or maybe he was busy. I really don't know.
Well, he was busy. He moved to Hawaii.
Yeah, I have no
for
idea.
Hawaii Five-0.
Those are one of those questions that I really can't ever answer because it was way before my time and no one ever talked about that stuff. They wouldn't have shared it with me, for God's sakes.
He seemed like such a pro. It was just
Yeah,
this is just
yeah,
acting. And
yeah, yeah.
Dawes Butler was the original Fred Flintstone, and Alan Reed got it. And not once did Dawes Butler say, "Oh, gee whiz." He said, "He's great. More power to him. I have other things." And that's perhaps the way he looked at it.
Yeah, a lot of actors are smart too, and they go, "There's a reason I'm not doing this part because I need to be available for something that's coming my way." I think about that all the time. I thought I wanted that role. Oh, I'm so upset I didn't get it, and then boom, something else comes up, and I go, "Oh my God, if I had done that, I wouldn't be available for this, and I like this so much better." And that
Yeah.
happens all the time to actors. So you got to just go, "Hey, I'm thrilled for this person that they got that job. My turn's coming up too," that kind of thing.
It's healthier too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
There's so many great stories, and my favorites are the funny ones. And him making lemons out of lemonade, like, don't tell him no, he'll figure out a way. One is
I love what you just said, making lemons out of lemonade. That's the opposite, Greg.
making lemon. Oh, that was good. Thought you caught me.
We had lemonade and we just turned it back into lemons
Well,
without
yeah,
the sugar.
Thank you. Thank you for
That's
revising.
okay, though. I knew what you meant.
No,
You
but
know what's funny, though? He would tell fairly depressing, dark stories, too, about divorce, the war, whatever. And somehow he could find the humor even in that. He always had a little touch of whimsy to the way he told a story. And that's why he was so much fun as a father, as his kids, because he could talk about the world and it would never bore you because he always kind of made it fun.
and the whole story of the uprising. What's also fascinating is the way he describes I guess they call the agitators who are almost professional at it, that will go
Right.
and say
Yeah.
things and stir up these. How could these everyday people suddenly turn into a mob? How is that done? And he says there are people who do this, and this is how it's done. And
It's still happening.
I was just going to say, isn't it good that doesn't happen anymore? But we
And
don't.
unfortunately, it does. It does.
Yeah.
That's probably the only part of well, even then he found some humor in it somewhere. There's the most terrible, terrible, terrible story to think of them watching everything they owned be destroyed and burnt to the ground in front of their eyes. And yet he still found a minute to say that something dark, funny happened when they got into the car and they couldn't start it because, you know, Bombale had taken the battery to the garage. The way he told it was like, oh, funny, but not.
And the story about moving, why everybody ended up in Miami, and then why.
Oh, right.
Can
At
you-
the end of the book, that's the new stuff that wasn't in the original book. That thing he called, what did he call it? Avalanche. Avalanche. He wrote this very detailed chronology of what happened in Cuba from way back before what happened to him to what was present day then, and how all of these shenanigans going on, the different leaders who would knock each other off, and the military overthrow, and how one by one they all got kicked to Miami. It's fascinating to read, and I just love that he wrote that out. God bless him. That took a lot of research.
Yeah, and it's from his own view. He was there. And not only was he there, but I mean, he comes from a prominent family, and his father was involved with it. So it wasn't just he was seeing this third person, and I
No.
knew someone. He was in the thick of this thing.
I never knew he was that up on the Cuban history, though. I thought once he left, it was like, I don't care anymore. I'm just out of there. I'm here. I'm an American. That's it. But he wrote that book many, many, many years after he'd been in the United States. And it showed me that he was still keeping tabs on everything that was happening over there, which is interesting because I didn't realize that till I found that piece of paper just a few months ago.
So he was still paying attention throughout his life to what was going
Yeah,
on.
clearly.
Wow. On the lighter side, him being Catholic, and we're recording this during Lent, I love the story about the tuna, the giant tuna fish.
Yes.
And it couldn't be this rubber thing. He says,
Right.
"It's going to not be funny if it's a rubber tuna.
Right.
It has to be two gigantic, smelly, yuck,
Slippery.
slimy, slippery things." And
Yeah.
this guy goes to like San Francisco.
Yeah.
with
Yeah. That is a great story.
What it shows is, and you've seen this sometimes in films and TV where it's like, it takes me out of it. I can't get away from the fact that this looks phony. They had to be real tunas for it to
That
be.
was always true on that show. They always tried to make everything as real as possible. They had real grapes, in the grape stomping scene. Why would you need to even do that? Just put something in there that they can smush around. No, it was real. Real grape stomping lady, real chocolates, real bread when they baked the big long, real rice when I mean, there were no like fake proppy type things. They always made it be as real as possible so they could have real reactions. How many dozens of eggs were in her blouse? That was all real.
And that's described in such incredible detail, not only how funny it is, but how Lucy worked it so well. I mean,
that's why they did it that way, because they knew what her reaction would be if it was as real as possible.
Yeah, and it's in degrees. It's in stages.
Yeah, yes.
A person who's a student of comedy should also do this. The other story that I found interesting, he needed seats. These poor guys, the things he did for the military people to entertain.
Yes, isn't that a wonderful story? I love that, getting the seat story.
Oh,
fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant. He solved it. He was a problem solver. He was one of the best problem solvers I ever knew. And like I said, he used to say there must be a way, and he wouldn't take it personally. If somebody said, no, the American public will never, believe that the two of you are a couple. You cannot play her husband on this show. Most people would say, well, screw you. Yes, they will. Well, what an insult. We've been married for 10 years, for God's sake. They would say that, but not my dad. He came to my mother and he said, well, honey, maybe they're right. Maybe the public won't accept us. But instead of saying, we're not going to do it, he said, let's go out together. You come out with me next time I do my show. We'll put in a couple of little sketches and you sing and we'll do this thing. And we'll see. We'll see if the crowds like us. Well, they went wild. They loved them. So he proved it. And then he came back to CBS and said, seems like they like us. And so there went that reason. And CBS had to say, well, okay, I guess, all right. But he didn't take it personally. There's a great story about the Buddy Rogers Orchestra in his book. He was a relief band for the Buddy Rogers Orchestra. That meant that the Buddy Rogers Orchestra would play for 45 minutes and then they would take like a 15-minute break. And during that break, the DESI Arnaz Orchestra would take their instruments and come and play. And they would play what DESI Arnaz Orchestra played, Latin music, Latin American music with Latin beat, right? And he said people would sit down. They would just sit down. They wouldn't dance at all. They're a dance band. But he didn't take it personally. He went over to Buddy Rogers. He said, listen, I think the reason they're sitting down is because they don't understand this music. They're not familiar with this type of rhythm. And so they don't trust it. So they sit down. Can we try something like on your last song? Could it be something that my guys know? And then one by one, we will replace your guys without taking a break so that before they know it, it's our band playing and we'll just segue into one of our numbers and maybe they won't sit down. And it worked. It's exactly how it worked. And they didn't. They just kept dancing because it was like, oh, I can dance to this. But isn't that brilliant? I mean, it's instead of going, these people hate me, I'm a failure, they hate my band. He goes, well, maybe we're doing it wrong. Maybe I can convince them by doing this. I just love that way of thinking.
Yeah, and that's another area, speaking of music, this is the 30s, right?
It's the late 30s, early 40s. Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I think it's before the Latin neighbor policy.
Yes.
Where songs, and even because of Walt Disney, Brazil and Tico Tico and songs like that became more popular in the United States. And he mentions the good neighbor policy and in Mexico, and they're saying like, how come we were here before and you didn't say anything and now you like us? But he was bringing Latin music in before that. He was cool before it was cool. Because introducing this, it was a very different sound in those days.
Yeah, well, he was smart because he took American songs, Broadway hits for the most part, and Latinized them, put a great little bongo, conga, rumba, samba beat to it. And now everybody's doing that, And then he would give them a couple of legit Latin music type songs. And then on the I Love Lucy show, of course, they allowed so much of his music to be played. And that was going right into American living rooms every day, which definitely opened the door for the Ricky Martins and the Gloria Estefans to come in the future, for sure.
One of the things he says in the book, too, that I think resounds today also is he said, we didn't go for messages on our shows
Yeah.
so much because there's a person working all day long. They're exhausted. They want to laugh. They want to have a good time. He said, but that doesn't mean messages are a bad thing if they're not handled with sledgehammers. It's true today. You know, you can organically get points in about all of the different social issues if you do it in an organic, well-written way. Latin music became, because it was on every week, it was in your home, suddenly, okay, there you go. It's a given. It's not like, here is why you should like this, or here is why. It was just there. And then the other thing he did was, in Lucy Tells the Truth, the Richard Denning version, he cheats on his taxes, and he has to tell the truth. And DESI said, I am not going to do that because I am representing people who have come to this country. I'm proud of this country, and I don't want that, you know, when Charles Lane comes.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, they said to him, oh, everybody cheats on their taxes. He said, I don't. You know, like, what do you mean? That's crazy. And I think it was great, too, that the writers, Bob and Madeline, never did any really contemporary or political jokes about things that were going on in the world. And that's great because that's why the show's lasted 75 years.
Yeah.
You're not looking at it saying, oof, that's dated. It was about people needing things they couldn't get. It was about friendships and love and anniversaries and, you know, need that wasn't being met and all the things that will always be true.
Yeah.
And I want to say something too about the Latin music thing. He wasn't pushing Latin music down anybody's throat.
No.
He wanted to keep his band working. And if he's going to be off the road doing a TV show, he didn't want those guys to be out at work. So he made a point that they should be on the show. And so they made sure that they were written into the show. And that was all he was trying to do, is keep those guys working. That's all, you know.
Yeah.
And he was known for his music. So that was his talent. My mother's talent was something else. And he got to be him.
Yeah.
You be you, I'll be me.
So you never got that feeling. You just was like, oh,
No.
cool. He's going to play this cool song. And it's written into the script of
Right.
Gumanchero. I love that song.
Yes, that's right. Trying to break the lease. That was
Yes,
what it
which
was.
is on your album, Latin Roots. Might as well promote that. And Johnny Angel's on it.
We wanted to do a Latin roots. It's called Latin Roots for a reason. I have Latin roots, but I'm an American. And I grew up in that era where there were Johnny Angels and It's My Party If I Cry If I Want To type of songs. And I always loved that song. And Ron Abel, my musical director, said, I think we can do a really great Latin feel. Doesn't change it hardly at all. It still sounds like the original tune, but it has an underbeat that is Latin and very sexy. And everything on the album was either a Latin song or an American song with a Latin feel.
Did you ever see Coco?
Yes.
Wasn't that sort of a wonderful celebration of that era's Latin music?
Oh, indeed. Indeed. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much more of that stuff today. He'd be so proud.
Oh, yeah. This is wonderful music that really doesn't date. People want to dance or just feel good.
That's right.
It. Let's talk about the conga line that he said sort of livened things up. And even when people were not quite in the mood, he would get them conga-ing and they would just go.
Yeah, that people should definitely read the entire scene when he gets hired for the first time with his first band in Miami at Mother Kelly's. It's so perfectly written as it is. It's a scene you could just pull right out of the book and just put it on a page and film it. It's so brilliantly written about how he was going to get fired because the people that Xavier Cugat sent him were not Latin at all, and they sounded horrible. And the only thing he could do to save his ass that night was to pull out this conga drum and try to recreate this kind of carnival feel, and let's see if it gets people to enjoy what we're doing. And it was way bigger hit than he ever imagined, and they even ended up naming the club after it. But read the story in the book because I'm not doing it justice by any stretch.
Yeah, we're just touching on stuff.
Yeah.
We want to tease, we want to entice.
Yeah.
And Cugat, he sort of like when Cugat came up on I Love Lucy, was like, hey, don't say, but Cugat was somebody who helped him a lot. And also Cugat was the last name on My Favorite Husband. Was that by chance or?
Completely coincidental.
No kidding.
Yep.
Two people who live together and like it.
That's right.
And I don't want to keep you too long because I know you've got a lot of things going.
I have a sound check in a couple of about 20 minutes from now. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I do want to ask, when his book was released and a lot of these people were still with us, were there interesting reactions from it? Because like you, they probably didn't know a lot of this.
I'm not sure I can answer that properly for you because, I mean, how would I know? Except from my mother. I mean, I don't know how his friends responded to it or how the people in the book responded to it. They didn't call me and tell me. As far as I knew, generally, it was very well received. It was a New York Times bestseller at the time. He did a cross-country tour that was many, 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 many weeks. He worked his butt off promoting the book. And I think it was very well received by everybody in the book, as far as I know.
There's been many dramatizations of Lucie and Desi and the recent I Love Lucy documentary, as well as the film. Has there ever been any talk about the I Love Lucy days and the Cuban situation and his struggle to succeed, all of that stuff? You know, there's a lot of drama and action.
We are producing a multi-series story right now about both of their lives from cradle to grave, which is what we thought the Amazon studio people who came to us with the Aaron Sorkin, well, they came to us first and then we hired Aaron, and that was the plan. They wanted to do the story of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz and their relationship, the whole thing. And then suddenly it changed, and it was just going to be a 2-hour feature film, and Aaron Sorkin wanted to just tell this little small piece of it. And that's fine. It's an interesting piece, but it's not anywhere near the whole story. And the whole story is absolutely fascinating, as you just said. So Robert Greenblatt, who is a major producer, and he ran several studios, he came to me and he said, I'm interested in telling the whole story. If you still want to go back and try this again. I said, oh, God, help me. But I would like to have a well-written, full version of what they both went through in their previous lives before meeting each other, because each one of their stories is fascinating. And then there's a whole middle part where when they are together, but they're not together because it's 10 years of him being on the road and her doing movies in Hollywood. And then there's the whole Lucy 10 years, 12 years, whatever that was. And then there's what happened after they got divorced. And then what? There's such a lot of drama and comedy, and it's a fabulous story, the two of them. It's a big deal to try to tell him. It's a deep dive. Maybe Mr. Sorkin didn't want to attempt. So he did what he could do, I liked it. I thought it was a good film. He did a good job, but it wasn't half of what we could tell. So we're doing it. We're doing it. Robert and I are in the process right now. We have talking to our writer, and we'll decide who we want to give it to. Do you know what I mean? What studio we think will do it justice.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you, I was saving this for the end because it is a grand finale to your afterword with all the papers. Without getting into stuff, but just the fact that he made this dramatic statement about why he feels the way he feels about living here in this country, all the different kinds of regimes that he's experienced firsthand. And that was, like you said, wow.
It was incredible that really was the last piece of paper in the last box that I looked at. I was stunned, gobsmacked. I went, wow, Dad. And I got kind of choked up a little bit because it seemed like a message to all of us. And I put it at the end of the book, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
It's all you should say, because you got to read every single word. And that is the last word.
Yeah.
I thank you, and I would love it if you could come back someday when you have time and tell the story of your career. Folks out there, you can go to luciearnaz.com. You can get these CDs. The 2 concerts are available also on like Spotify. And they are funny and they're touching, and the choices of music and Hazel and just everything. There's so much to talk about. Maybe sometime that would be great.
Sure. Anytime you want, Greg.
Okay.
Anytime.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, sweetheart.
We love you too, Lucy, and
Appreciate it.
best to the family, and God bless you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed the Pop Culture Classics podcast with Greg Ehrbar. Please join us again, and thanks for listening.